this video, we will discuss the oil crisis and the end of the Bretton Woods system, specifically how they affected Germany. The 1970s energy crisis was a period when the major industrial countries of the world faced substantial petroleum shortages and thus increased prices. There were two main crises, one in 1973 and one in 1979. We will first run through the causes leading to these events. In 1960, OPEC, the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, was founded, and their position became stronger between 1969 and 1972, when more oil companies became nationalized. Also, between 1968 and 1973, there was a gradual collapse of the Bretton Woods system. Namely, in 1971, the United States ended the Bretton Woods system by abandoning the gold exchange standard to the dollar, leading to flexible exchange rate. This led to a depreciation of the dollar. Since oil was priced in dollars, this led to a decrease in the income of oil producers. Following, OPEC increased the price of oil significantly in the upcoming years. Besides this, during the Yom Kippur War in 1973, the members of OPEC proclaimed an oil embargo as a response to the support of the United States and other Western countries towards Israel. This embargo was basically a drastic rise in the posted price for crude oil and caused the oil crisis of 1973, with many short and long-term effects on global politics and the global economy. Since short-term oil demand is inelastic, immediate demand falls little when the prices rise. Thus, market prices had to rise to reduce demand to the new lower level of supply.
Germany itself played an important role in the end of the Bretton Woods system, as it was then known. As mentioned previously, by 1971 the dollar was facing a lot of downward pressure, and Germany was trying to support it by purchasing dollars in exchange for Deutsche Mark. This was costing them a lot, and eventually, on the 6th of May 1971, Germany's Minister for Economic Affairs, Karl Schiller, ordered that the Deutsche Mark should float temporarily. This was the beginning of the end. Just 2 months later, Nixon cancelled the convertibility of dollars to gold, and it was never resumed. Following this, the majority of major global trading nations adopted a floating exchange rate policy against the dollar. Finally, in 1973, at a meeting between German Chancellor Willy Brandt and US President Ottmar Emminger, the US officially relieved Germany of its duty to support the dollar as it faced growing pressure yet again. Germany no longer had to buy dollars. Their exit from the system of fixed exchange rates sealed the fate of Bretton Woods. It was officially abandoned shortly afterwards.
The political arena in Germany was in for a change since 1969. Left parties such as the Social Democratic Party of Germany and the Free Democratic Party gained popularity and formed a coalition. After the crisis, to fight the increasing inflation and reduce the dependence on exports, monetary policy became a strategic tool for the government. Interest rates were increased by the central bank, and the Deutsche Mark appreciated by 10% after a short time. When the oil shock started to influence the economy, Germany increased interest rates even more, and they reached a level of 30%, while issuing stimulus packages of 5.8 billion Deutsche Mark into the economy. As a consequence, Germany managed to counter the shock by 1975, when key figures were at the worst. As the table shows, prices grew by 7% and the unemployment rate increased to 4.7%. This was far better than neighboring countries in Europe who had experienced extreme levels of inflation. Italy, who had been in a similar situation to Europe, failed to avoid this due to instability and a weaker monetary policy. Their inflation rose to 16.7%. The graph shows the extreme differences in inflation rates across Europe. A functionally political system, monetary policy, independence, and sufficient fiscal funds helped the economy to deal with temporary shocks. We see from the policy chosen by the German government during the first oil shock that the central bank prioritized dealing with inflation and was willing to sacrifice the employment rate. This in general was seen as a successful policy.
Germany's success in overcoming the shock and maintaining stability is a key reason behind its role in Europe today as a crucial and dependable economy. The European Central Bank is now very much modelled on the Bundesbank and takes a lot of lessons from this shock. Based in Frankfurt, it is cautious and prudent and often reinforces the German case for austerity. The story we have told is a big reason why Europe works as it does today. Germany are of course right to be worried about inflation. They experienced hyperinflation in the 1920s with disastrous consequences, and then avoided it in the 70s with extreme success. There remains, however, a question whether this is right for Europe. There has been criticism that too much importance is put on inflation, when more should be done to stimulate economies. We are all aware of the tensions between Germany and Southern Europe, and this is a key factor. Even the head of the ECB has spoken of the tension and the pressure he feels from the looming shadow of Germany. It finally leads on to the large question once more of whether Europe can function when different countries have such different needs. Is the Germanization of Europe working? Is there an alternative option? These are the questions we need to consider. Thank you for watching. These are some questions we would like you to consider for the next class.